My why for quitting drinking. My story is a lot different than most people's why. And I'm just going to go over a short snippet of what kind of happened, what kind of drinking I did, and what happened to make me want to stop. So I drank throughout high school. Probably when I started about like 14 or 15, got invited to parties, started to become like kind of like the party guy where I was always the one with the alcohol. Then when I went to college, I was still the one with the alcohol, the guy throwing the pre games. I was really good at getting drunk before I went out, so I didn't have to spend a lot of money on drinking. I'd always get somebody else to drive. I wasn't the driver, somebody else would drive. And it just kind of then I went to grad school and I was still drinking, and then when I went to grad school in St. Thomas, like weed kind of got introduced, and then I worked on yachts, and then I went traveled around the United States in 2018 by myself for 6 months. And then as I went to the west coast of United States, I started smoking a lot. So and then I started having like good experiences, but also some bad experiences. The bad experiences meaning like super hardcore paranoia where I would hide in the bushes thinking the CIA was out to kill me. And then I remember this one particular time, October 23rd, 2018, when I was in Lake Tahoe. I was sleeping in my rooftop tent and it was freaking freezing cold. And so I went down into the cabin of my car, and I smoked some weed from a weed pen. And then almost instantaneously had a really bad reaction where I was just shaking, shivering. I literally have a videotape or a video recording of myself shivering and shaking and writing in my journal and crying myself to the sunrise, thinking that the CIA was going to kill me. And I remember throwing my weed pen out the window and saying, never again. And then the next day, I actually went out and looked for my weed pen and I didn't find it, luckily. And I decided to jump in the water of Lake Tahoe, baptize myself, swore off smoking weed for the rest of my life. Decided while I'm giving up smoking weed, I might as well stop drinking too. Decided to fast for 3 days. And this, when I thought about drinking, I was like, well, why do I drink in the first place? I kind of thought to myself, and I was like, well, I drink because it makes me feel more confident. It makes me feel like I'm a better dancer. It makes me feel like I can perform better in the bedroom. It makes me feel like, I'm better than I am sober. So then I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, here's the deal. I made a deal with myself. I said, all right, so, well, the first thing was like, I figured I was like, do I really want to meet my wife drunk? Do I really want to know that the only reason that I went up to my potential wife was because I was drunk and I was feeling confident enough to talk to her? Like, what if she falls in love with my drunk self? What if she falls in love with that confident person that I feel like I am when I'm drinking and I feel like I can never amount to that? That's not okay with me. I realized that I'd never been on a date sober. And I just want to put a precursor out there that I would never consider myself an alcoholic. I would only drink when there was women around. And I was reliant on the alcohol to be the life of the party, to dance, to be confident with women. But I was never like hardcore, like addicted. I didn't need it. It just was better for those situations. And it kind of hit me in the face where I was like, wait, like, is that okay with me? And I thought about it. I was like, I've never been on a date sober, and that's not okay with me. I'm not okay with having to rely on alcohol for these things. So instead of like making it all like doom and droomy and like negative, I thought about it as, all right, well, here's a challenge for you, Bo self. I said, when you can dance as good as you can dance drunk without drinking, then you could start drinking again. When you could feel as confident as you feel when you're drinking sober, then you could drink again. When you can perform in the bedroom as well as you feel like you can perform drunk sober, then you could drink again. What I didn't realize is that I was tricking myself into sobriety for the rest of my life. Because once I was able to attain that, which I did, then I was like, what's the freaking point of drinking in the first place? It doesn't do anything for me. I've already been able to disprove all the things that I feel like drinking brings me. So what's the point? So I feel like one mistake that people kind of make when they're trying to get sober is they think it's like forever. They're like, oh my gosh, like this huge daunting thing that I've been doing for 20, 30, 40 plus years is now going to be a thing of the past. And I'm going to get triggers all the time, but not going to drink ever again. And that's a daunting thing. And especially when you put that negative connotation as like, I have to get sober, you know, I'm an addict, I have to, like, it's a sickness, it's an allergy, I'm an addict. When you have that like relationship with it, it doesn't really feel fun because maybe you have to do it because of legal matters or because you keep putting yourself in the same shithole and it's because of the alcohol and I get it. But what I was able to do as I was able to reframe it into a challenge, and I kind of tricked myself into being sober for the rest of my life. And I didn't really know that the alcohol was really a problem until I got hit hard with the weed. And when I get hit hard with the weed, I was like, ooh, well, this is probably not very good. So then once it got hit hard at the weed, then I was like, I mean, I wasn't drinking that much as I was smoking anyway. Like there was no girls around and I was driving. So it was easier to smoke and chill and drive slow through a national park than it was to just get hammered by myself. Like I wasn't gonna do that. That wasn't my relationship with alcohol. My relationship with alcohol was solely be the life of the party, hook up with chicks, and not be a positive. And I didn't need that when I was on the road by myself. So my why for quitting drinking was that I didn't want to meet my future wife drunk. I didn't want my future wife to fall in love with the confidence that I felt like I needed or that I thought that I had while I was drinking or drunk. And it wasn't okay with me that I'd never been on a date sober. I wanted to test my confidence without drinking. I was like, I remember this like mentality. It was, oh, you think you have game? Let's see how much game you have sober. That was a huge why for me. It was like, oh shit. And I realized very, very quickly the first time I went out sober, it was non-existent. Like it was really bad. I remember it's a time for another story, but basically I went out. Some a girl that looked drunk was dancing on me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" When I was drunk, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, girl, what's up?" When I was sober, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so awkward." And so it took like 6 months, a year, 2 months, or 2 years, 3 years until I finally found out how to speak with women sober. But it took a lot of discomfort in order to get there. So my why wasn't necessarily just for me, it was for my future family, it was for my future wife, is for how I want to be able to show up for my family because alcoholism is very predominant in my family. And so I didn't want to go through that same exact thing that I had to experience for the first, 16 years of my life. I didn't want my family to go through that. So you kind of have to figure out what your why is for you and make it bigger than you. If it's just for you, you're probably going to quit. So you have to make sure your why is huge. And it's not just you, it's your family, it's your wife, it's your husband, whatever. And when you think about them and you project into the future, that's when your whys can be really strong. And especially if you have like alcoholism in your family and be like, I want to do X because I don't want Y, right? So now you're having like a double, like a negative and a positive propels you forward to strengthen your why even more. So, yeah, if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, you can go ahead and comment them down below. If you were able to become sober, just write down your why. Everybody's why is different, but you'll start to notice that the stronger the person's why is, the longer they will refrain from alcohol. And to be honest, my why now is just I don't it doesn't do anything for me. And it's like has created a bond between my mom and I because she got sober, and then I don't drink and she doesn't drink, and like that brings us together. It's like this cool commonality that we have. And then all the people around my in my life like don't drink anymore either. It's like this kinetic energy that kind of just becomes it creates out of vibration. When people don't drink, like they attract other people that don't drink. Similar things to like, when people are overweight, they attract people who have the same uh, habits as them who are also overweight. Their partner might be overweight, their children are overweight. It's just like what you are attracts other people that are all the same, right? So anyway, yeah, like I said, questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and pop them down below. Hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your night. Much love and get out there and sober cheers for Christmas. Merry Christmas, y'all.